Welcome to Climate Crossroads San Diego. My name is Walt. This week I will share a YouTube podcast on climate models. I'm particularly interested in the comparison of how the financial industry adapts to risk compared to how climate scientists interpret variable outcomes in their climate models. I think there's a lesson here. The second part of this podcast will discuss the impact of high electric rates on the fight against climate change. One of my favorite environmental podcasts on YouTube is Just Have a Think. A few weeks back, this video was published, and I was reviewing it today when one section of analysis popped out at me. In this clip, Dave Borlas sums up the state of climate models currently and then pivots to an interesting observation. I'll play it for you and then comment on the other side.
The bottom line right now, in all honesty, is that we're guessing a little bit about the specifics of future changes to our climate, but recent real-world data is strongly indicating that those guesses are predominantly underestimating the severity of what's coming, not overestimating it. Which brings us briefly to the financial risk managers. We've looked at the work of Sandy Truss and his colleagues at the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries and Exeter University a couple of times in the past. They make the point that conservative estimating in climate science, which tends to draw all the lines of possibility on a graph and then strike a notional median line right through the middle of all the results, is in very stark contrast to conservative estimating in the world of financial risk management, which draws all the same lines on the same graph and then says, we need to cover our asses against that line there, because that's the worst case scenario. And however unlikely, if that did happen, we would be wiped out financially. Even the world's most prolific fossil fuel investing bank, JP Chase, has just published a paper warning its partners and the wider industry that rapid climate change is a very real thing, that is very really happening right now and will continue to get worse in the coming years. Have they done that because they've suddenly had some kind of environmental epiphany? No, they've done it because they want to protect their assets and those of their clients.
It seems to me that this whole discussion should be a concern for environmental policymakers. Those same policymakers who the citizens of California voted in to protect their future and the future of their loved ones. To those in charge of the future of our state and county, I have one question. Does your current plan for fighting climate change adequately fit the circumstances? Here's an excerpt from a TED Talk published last year to remind us about our lack of progress in fighting climate change so far.
Earth system scientists and climate scientists are getting seriously nervous. The planet is changing faster than we have expected. We are, despite years of raising the alarm, now seeing that the planet is actually in a situation where we underestimated risks. Abrupt changes are occurring in a way that is way beyond the realistic expectations in science. What shall we do to avoid these unmanageable outcomes? Well, the IPCC is clear on the pathway. To stay under 1.5 degrees Celsius, to avoid crossing tipping points, we need to operate, to navigate within the global carbon budget that gives us a chance of holding 1.5. What remains for us is only 200 billion tons of carbon dioxide that we can continue emitting to have a 50% chance of holding 1.5. We emit today 40 billion tons of carbon dioxide per year, giving us 5 years at current rate of emission before we've consumed the budget. We are seriously running out of time. This is seriously causing economic costs. We have scientifically in the past shown that this could cost a few percent of global GDP of the climate impacts caused by us. I can tell you that the latest scientific assessment is what you see on the screen here. An 18% loss of GDP by 2050 if we now follow the current path. This is equivalent to $38 trillion of loss per year in 2050. It's starting to hurt, both in human social costs and in economic costs. And this is happening at 1.2 degrees Celsius of global mean surface temperature rise, and we're following a pathway that takes us to 2.7 degrees Celsius in only 70 years. And we've had a 10,000 year period where our civilizations have developed, where we've had an enormous privilege of a planet at 14 degrees Celsius plus minus 0.5 degrees Celsius. That's the Holocene since we left the last ice age. And if you look 3 million years back, we never exceeded 2 degrees Celsius. That's the warmest temperature on Earth during the entire Quaternary. The coldest point, minus 5 degrees Celsius, ice age. I call this the corridor of life. Is it surprising that we scientists are getting really, really nervous? But it's more. It's so much more than this.
This article appeared on CNET in February, and it will work perfectly to illustrate what is happening in our climate preparations. What the article provides is a formula for helping a prospective EV customer decide what it will cost to operate their electric car compared to their gas engine vehicle. Let's walk through the calculations, which are easy to follow. In the chart above me, we can see two columns of data points. The data on the right is for fueling a car with gas. The assumption is 1,250 miles per month of use. Assuming 25 miles per gallon, we can expect to buy 50 gallons of gas in a month. The national average for gas used by CNET was $3.16. So the cost of fueling our car is $158 per month. Now, if we look at the column of data to the left, we can calculate our EV charging cost. CNET used an average of 3 miles per kilowatt hour, or 416 kilowatt hours per month. Using the national average rate of 17 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity, we arrive at a monthly cost of $70.72 to recharge our EV. Our EV saves $87.28 per month given these assumptions. There are other benefits that go with EV ownership, but we will focus on gas versus electricity. But what happens when we replace national averages with average rates for electricity and gasoline in San Diego? For this calculation, we will use the electric rate of 41.6 cents per kilowatt hour for SDG&E, which is the last rate reported by the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. The gas rate is as shown above as reported by Fox News 5. All other assumptions in the calculation remain the same. As you can see, there is a savings of $70.44 per month using electricity to fuel an EV rather than a gas-fueled car in San Diego. Let's compare these outcomes side by side. A comparison shows that even with San Diego's extremely high electricity rates, it's still possible for an EV owner to save money if they charge their car at home. However, the benefit on a monthly basis is reduced by almost $17 as shown in red. It might not seem like much of a reduction, but remember, we're comparing California's extremely high gas prices and electric rates to much lower national averages. So not only is the EV fuel cost savings reduced, but Californians are forced to pay much higher electric bills as shown in blue. What happens if we imagine San Diego consumers could pay the national average for electricity? The EV savings per month grows to $172.78 as shown inside the gold oval. This is a much better savings for a consumer to justify investing in an EV. Hopefully, you can see the high IOU electric rates are having the unintended consequences of significantly reducing the fuel savings that is the major benefit of buying an EV. This is not just counterproductive. This is the unacceptable consequence of high utility prices. We can't expect anything different from an investor-owned utility. It's in their corporate charter to prioritize their Wall Street investors over the needs of their customers. But what about our state and county leaders? Who else is going to lead the fight against climate change for us? If I was a California politician, I wouldn't be thinking of running for national office with such a record of energy costs. That candidate would get crushed by the political advertising during the primaries. Either our leaders are invested in fighting climate change or it's all just greenwashing. Thank you for watching. I would love to hear from any of you about topics you would like covered in our upcoming episodes. Thanks again, and keep up the good fight.